All right, good evening. I would like to call the Curriculum Committee meeting. It is the 14th of November. Is there any public comment on the agenda? All right, then I will turn it over to Mrs. Grigaitis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Petruno, and welcome everybody to November's Curriculum Committee of the Board meeting. We do have our agenda displayed for everyone, and the first thing on our agenda this evening is our course approval process, and we have a wonderful group of individuals from our high school that are going to help us through that, as well as discuss some of our new proposed courses, and then we will end our meeting with a discussion around professional learning time, which was a request from the board. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Jason Bacani, who is the principal of Plymouth Whitemarsh High School.
Thank you. Thank you for having our team, the Plymouth Whitemarsh High School team, as well as two department chairs here this evening. Twofold, we have folders for our school board members, Dr. Christian and Mrs. Grigaitis, entailing the 2022-23 course catalog, our school profile, which is almost an overview, highlights our academic offerings at the high school, as well as the timeline, which was reviewed at the last curriculum committee of the board meeting. We're excited. In over several years, we've added, as I mentioned at the last meeting, over 40 new courses as we transition to the 5-block schedule. Very detailed process that we followed as aligned with the timeline that's included in the handout and displayed. I want to thank the department chairs and teacher leaders for all of their feedback along the process. There were several courses that were proposed, and then we had an interactive activity on the 14th during a department chair meeting, and it gets to this point. So we're thrilled to share 5 new proposed courses, 3 departments, 2 in the English department. We have Ms. Kim May here, our department chair for the English department, present. Look forward to hearing from her. 1 from the social studies department, advanced placement, African American studies, and 2 from our music department. And Mrs. O'Connor here, our music department chair and liaisons, present to share highlights of our 2 new courses in the music area. So if you take a look at the timeline, once again, vetted through our department chair meeting on the 14th, ongoing feedback from our curriculum supervisors as well as the building level administrators. So I'll turn it over to Mrs. O'Connor. I want to walk on up. If you go to the next slide, Mrs. Aiken, thank you. Yep. So we have, as you can see from our table, 5 courses. There are links to each course that's added on the agenda. You also have a copy of the issue brief in your folder. And essentially what the issue brief is, a proposal in terms of the type of course that it is, the description of the course, the level of the course, the purpose of the course, and the impact, which is like budgetary as well as staffing. So without further ado, turn over to Ms. O'Connor. We have 2 new courses in music, String Lab and DigiBeats Factory as terms of proposals. Ms. O'Connor.
Good evening. Thank you to the board for having me here tonight to speak on behalf of these 2 courses. So I'm really happy to talk about these 2 new opportunities the PW Music Department has for its students. So the first, I'm going to roll it over here. Oh, did I do it wrong? I did it wrong, but I'm just going to speak to it. So picture yourself as a high school student. You love music. You listen to it every day in between classes, at lunch, on the way home. You find yourself tapping on tables, humming a tune, and making up new lyrics to a beat you just heard. And you're the kid who's always finding the latest tracks on Spotify and making sure you're online on Tuesdays when they drop. You love it. You love music, but you have no idea how to read it, how to play an instrument, decipher the black and white symbols on the page. And what if I told high school you that there was a place to create something you love without knowing how to do any of that? So welcome to the DigiBeats Factory, where all you need is a CSD one-to-one device, that love, and an ability to collaborate and communicate with your peers. So here, Used a touch screen, sorry. So the DigiBeats Factory is a music technology class accessible to all Plymouth White Marsh High School students. Students will learn how to turn their Chromebooks into digital audio workspace, or as the industry calls it, a DAW. With no musical background necessary, students will learn how to lay down tracks, beats, and create original compositions utilizing a free web-based platform to start. While also learning about the proprietary aspects of it all, what makes this class special is that it's an additional musical elective that not only fits the needs of music in modern times, but it's a place where kids are creating and making music individually and together again, beyond the traditional ensembles that we offer. The students will then create portfolios of their works and upload them into a CSD stock audio folder, where now our CITV media and media production students and staff will be able to utilize those student-created works for sweeps, background music, and title music. Okay. So as you can see, there's no prereq for this class, and beyond the CSD devices and the free web-based platform, it would be really nice to have some smaller MIDI keyboards with sample pads so we can really show the kids how to do this in a tangible way. However, we can do this all with the resources that we currently have in our program. Okay. So second is our String Lab course. Okay, there we go. So in the String Lab, students will work together in this semester-based group to not only deepen their string and orchestral skills on their instrument, but to engage in the following topics: that inner game of music, performance anxiety, technique enhancement, film and musical score reading, string repair, studio creation, and string instrument exploration. For example, I'm a violinist. I'm a senior now, and I want to learn how to play the cello. How do I do that? Okay. All participants who enroll must participate in the ensemble performance as their final project, either in the winter or spring concert, and this course does require at least 3 years on a string instrument. So, what makes this course really special is it provides access to a few different student populations. One, it's going to bring kids back into our program who have previously enrolled, maybe due to life, decided they stopped and they regret that decision, or they only want a little bit of orchestra in their life in addition to their other course content. Two, this keeps kids in the program who are participating in an AVID program or who are participating in an AP conflict course, right? If they have an AP that is aligned to their career pathway and have no other option, this is it for them. And lastly, three, it opens a door to a kid who wants more instrumental time in their day, orchestral-wise, and wants that enrichment on something they are already committed to and want to possibly make their career. So, going beyond what currently exists.
Mrs. O'Connor,
yep.
In the DigiBeats course,
Sorry, yeah.
Talk to the board a little bit about, you said no prereq.
Yep.
If I'm an 8th grader or a 9th grader, what's the target audience? Because we have students in band, strings,
Yep.
chorus, musical theater.
Yep. There's drama. There's also the Intro to Music course.
Right.
That's there.
So, But we also have kids in CITV with
Yep.
Mr. Duncan. So
Yep.
talk to the board a little bit about your target audience there.
So my target audience is a kid who loves music, but it's too daunting to read music. It's too daunting to pick up an instrument and play it. What's really neat about modern music creation is you just need a good ear and an interest. Many of today's leading artists have no musical traditional background on an instrument. They are doing it electronically because that is where our industry is going, in a sense. They have instruments at the tip of their fingers by logging on to this program, so they can literally create a beat by just tapping on a space. It's called a sample pad, and then recording that and looping that, and then adding their own beats based on, again, this tapping motion. You just need kind of a place to do that, and also a process and a step-by-step procedure. Okay, this is how the system works. This is how you add an instrument. But we're reaching a greater, more global population.
So conceivably, this would include students who like to perform but
Yeah.
also students who like to maybe produce and be behind the camera.
Exactly. So this is for the in front and out
Thank you.
and not in spotlight. Thank you. Yep.
Could this also be for a student who is an all AP kind of student, but loves music, but nobody knows it because they've never put their heart and soul into music? So they could take this course
Anybody.
with no background at all in music other than elementary school and middle school music.
Yep.
Okay.
My question is around the resources. You said they required a student one-to-one devices. I'm making an assumption that that includes the school provided device as their one-to-one device. Just making sure that someone is not deterred because they don't have a personal device.
No, we're one-to-one, grades 3 through 12. Our K1 and 2 use iPads still, but they can take it home if they want. And then for families in need that have multiple kids, or families that have a request, we're in the process, if we haven't already fulfilled it, if they need to leave a device at school and still want one at home, they can. So we're more than one-to-one.
And the 5 MIDI samplers that are not necessary, they range from $99 to $500 each? What is that, $99 to $500?
So based on key size. So you can get an 18 key for $100 with 6 samples, or you have a more grander scale. So you have a 61 key with maybe more pad options. Just, it's a range. Happy, we don't necessarily need that to run the class, but to enhance it, and what some of the kids are buying on their own from what I'm seeing, that's the cost.
Okay, so you have here curricular budget. Does that include those, or it does not? These 5 devices?
It does not.
So
but it
you
can.
need funding from some other source if you're going to get these?
If I'm going to get those would have to be budgeted for through the
Okay.
curriculum process,
Gotcha.
but not necessary. Yeah.
Thank you.
When you create this course, is it this is a demand and you're supplying the solution to it, or it's you have a vision and you think it's going to expand the number of kids who can then be interested in music? Because it sounds like, especially from both of them, that these are opportunities to expand the number of kids that are participating.
Yes, absolutely. This is a way to open our door to all kids in our department to go with our big plan of growing the music program. So full transparency, too, a pilot of this class was run when we were in our COVID stage, when we were not able to sing or play the guitars at the middle school. So I realized, well, what can I do with these kids? I want them to make music, but they can't share. So for one trimester, I created Digital Music Innovations, and one of the units was this exploratory area of digital music and digital audio workspaces. And from there, I saw an interest. Oh, Mrs. O'Connor, can we go back to that? Can we go back to that? And then being at the high school now and having this wonderful opportunity to see kids again, and then also they're so vocal about what they want and what they need. And I'm right next door to the media production area, and seeing what they're doing in there and knowing that, man, we could have this collaborative front here for kids, and I could meet the needs of yours and ours all at the same time. Yeah.
Do you have any concern that it's going to decrease the participation in other things? Like, I would have been in band, but this digital music lab sounds so much more exciting. Or
No.
Okay.
Because I'm a music kid, and this would just add to the things I can do as a music kid. So our kids who are invested into our program right now are fully invested. I believe in that. So I don't think it would deter. In fact, it would bring kids back maybe to our program.
Do you think in String Lab, if we establish that and the board approves it, that will increase the already impressive orchestra numbers we have? Because we have strong numbers and strings in the early ages, as you well know, having worked in DES, CMS, and now the high school. But will that help us maintain that enthusiasm so that in 3 years we see a big orchestra up on the stage?
So that's my goal. Came to PW. Biggest bonus is working with kids that I started. My seniors are my last class of beginners I had 7 years ago. And then I'm also going, where did everybody go? Right? So I was asking that question and doing my research and wondering why couldn't orchestra fit into their schedule? Why couldn't, and then why isn't it there for more time? Why isn't there an extra class, kind of like how our band children get the opportunity to have the jazz and blues class, which is an extension of band? Where is the orchestral extension for our kids? So that's where it all kind of came together, and the idea of the String Lab was created. But yeah, to increase our program.
Apologies if I missed it, but the Digibeats, the $500, that's a recurring every year $500? It's one time $500?
Yeah, one time $500. I just wanted to make sure I gave the plane of like, okay, this thing can cost $99 or it can go to $500.
No, I appreciate the link.
Musical
It looks fun.
instruments are.
I equate it to textbook
Yeah.
costs, right?
But that would be
It's essential for the
500
curriculum.
5 pieces at 99 to
Yes,
Yeah, 99
yes, and
each.
then but they
Right.
range. Little sample pads range in
Gotcha.
price. You can.
There's a link in the agenda. It looks quite fun.
Yep. You're right. You want to take that class?
Yes,
There
I
you
do.
go.
I'm in.
Well, I can say this on a personal note. While I will not be taking either of these classes, you were able to get me dancing at convocation. So if anybody has the power of persuasion, it is you, Mrs. O'Connor,
Thank you
because
for the
I do not dance. And you fortunately educated me and got me through it without too much difficulty.
Listen, we can all cut a rug. Everybody, we can all cut a rug. It's how we do it. It's the process.
Well,
Everybody's
we
musical.
appreciate your enthusiasm.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connor. She's been at the high school for 2.5 months, and you obviously can feel and sense the energy and enthusiasm towards music. She's done a terrific job. So thank you again for presenting. I'm turning over to Mrs. Kimberly May, our department chair of our English department. We have two new course proposals from the department, one being a dual enrollment course called Theories of Leadership. Another is a women's literature course as an elective as well. So I'll turn over to Mrs. May.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to be here to propose 2 new courses from the English department. The first course we have is Unruly and Exploration of Women's Literature, which would be a course for 10th to 12th graders. It is an academic course with no prerequisites except for completion of their 9th grade English year. In this course, our goal is to represent various diverse women's voices, both as authors and as protagonists or female characters within texts that break free from traditional roles, challenge social norms, and lead to the empowerment of the female voice. I don't know. It went away. Sorry about that. Thank you. There we go. Let's see. We believe that this course will have interest for young women and young men across the board. It can also be differentiated and tiered with the utilization of different literary circles. We are going to be exploring not only short stories, novels, essays, poetry, and plays, but also films and documentaries that speak to social issues, social justice, human rights, issues of gender, and power within the woman's world. There's not very much impact on the department. We have a teacher who is willing to teach the course, and her and I together are going to be building it. A lot of the resources we ask for, some of them are just, to get an idea of what type of literature that we'd like to use and which voices that we're going to explore. And after we have a firm understanding of the various different great pieces of literature out there, then we'll start to vet and determine the curriculum for the course. All right. Are there any questions?
What are the sample texts that students would be reading?
We have a few anthologies. We have one, Standing Her Ground, Classic Short Stories by Trailblazing Women.
We also have short story masterpieces. We have the language of composition. We're also looking at various different shorter pieces, short stories from very diverse voices with different backgrounds and ethnicity, religion, time period. So there's a variety of different pieces that we're looking at. We're also, one of the main anthologies that we're looking at is the Vandermeer, The Sisters of the Revolution, which gives a speculative fiction kind of approach to teaching the course.
I think the course, I think it has great potential. I think it'll be a great course. Will be like more of a seminar, a discussion, writing intensive? What's the?
We're kind of focusing it on more project-based, discussion-based, survey course, exploration of women's literature. I think it'll, kind of complement our gender studies class and our social studies department as well. So it's just another kind of dimension of this diversity within our school.
Quick question.
Yes.
So I'm all about student choice and students having input in what and what they're learning and what they're reading. I just want to ensure, so once you do this whole vetting process, you come together with this great list. Is there an opportunity for students to have any input into what's going to be on the curriculum?
Absolutely. And we definitely want their feedback. And during the course, we're also going to be doing choice novels. So students will be able to select which books they like to read. Like I said, we can also address readiness, interest of individual students in terms of the type of text that they are reading. So they will definitely have feedback and input into the course. Okay.
I'm sorry, I do have a question.
Yes.
I apologize. So on the list of books, some are identified as already purchased. Is that already purchased in preparation for this course, or already purchased for something else?
Already purchased in preparation for the course.
Okay.
So myself and another teacher in the department already purchased some text to kind of take a look at and see what's available. So we do have, single copies of those.
Oh, just single copies?
Yes, just to develop the course. And once we have the curriculum in place, then we could, put in a budget request for class set.
And so along the lines of Sharon's question in terms of the input and feedback from the students, so at what point would that feedback be provided by the students? And I'm asking because if you've already purchased and you're using these books as the impetus for the content, how much space is there for movement of potentially modifying that content based off of the feedback?
Oh yeah, there's plenty of space for modifications prior to the course running. Typically, when we have a new course added to our catalog, we have information sessions for students so they can learn about the course, the type of content they'll be engaging with. That will give us an opportunity to share, adjust, and modify as we go along in the course as well from the students who enroll and register for the course.
Thank
you. Okay. Thank you.
I think part of the curriculum cycle too, after a course runs its first or second year, there's an evaluation. I think it'll be a great addition to the program of studies.
Thank you. And our second course is Theories of Leadership, which is for our 11th and 12th graders. It is a dual enrollment course through the University of Pittsburgh. And this course gives kind of a survey approach to the various different theories of leadership historically and more modern versions. Students will focus on the question, what is leadership? There are several different units of study looking at the concept of followership, as well as developing their skills as leaders. They'll take a look at various different approaches to the leadership in terms of servant leadership, transformational leadership, as well as transactional and sacrificial leadership. As I mentioned, it is an honors dual enrollment course. We do have one text that has been purchased through the district office budget because it is a new course. So we do have Leadership by Northhouse as our primary text, and there's also supplementary pieces to complement the curriculum as well. So we're anticipating at least one section, and 2 sections this year, and possibly growing that in the future. And
Mrs. May or Dr. Bacani, just for the board's edification, could you review what dual enrollment accomplishes for our students?
yes, students have the option to register as a dual enrollment course for a cost, but they also get college credit for the course through the University of Pittsburgh. So that would be on their transcript.
Question regarding the career pathway alignment.
Mhm.
There's several listed here, but these aren't the only. Okay.
No, not
Realize
at all. Not at all. And we
okay.
were discussing as well that it could extend across any of the career pathways. Yes.
2 questions.
Yes, sir.
One of them stupid because my kids are all 8th and below. So when you go through your high school English curriculum, it used to be like you have English, then you have English, then you have English, then you have English.
Yes.
So now you take your 9th grade English, and that's kind of set. And then you can go like, oh, I'm interested in this women's studies course, or you can just kind of pick your way through. This is the focus of the curriculum, how I'd like to go through, or is it these are more? I have regular English, and then I have supplemental as my elective,
Yes.
or how's that work?
There are core classes that they are required to take for graduation. They have a full year of English in 9th grade. They have a 10th, 11th, and 12th grade course. Both of these courses would be electives.
Okay.
9th grade year, they don't have too much space because they have full year English and full year bio. But 10th through 12th grade, they have space in their schedules in order to fit electives.
Gotcha.
So just to add on that, so our counselors work with each student to create 4-year plans. And then as we communicated to the board, where these sophomore spotlight meetings with parents and students, that's where they have that conversation. And we host informational academic forums with our kids too, so they have an idea of not only the focus they would like, but also the wealth of electives that we offer that the students can share and highlight about.
Great. And my other one was just technical. In this course requirement, you estimated that you're going to have a classroom set of this library. And the other one, you said we only need 1 copy of the book. And I was just trying to figure out from a logistical standpoint why.
We're just using the text that we've already purchased just to identify short stories, poetry, different pieces, editorials, and so forth in order to build the course.
Gotcha.
And then when we identify which pieces that we're using, we will most likely select either an anthology or a piece that we can kind of complement with other articles and things along those lines that are for use.
Okay.
Mr. Price and Dr. Bacani, for board notes for Friday, if you could put together what the graduation requirements are for 4 years, and then how many available spaces there are in a student's schedule as they progress from freshman to senior year for electives. That way the board can get a sense of students who may choose to go in the humanities direction, some go in the EDI direction, some go in the sciences, and they can see how many available slots there are as students progress through. What we also do is each of the assistant principals meets with their students as well as the counselors near the conclusion of each year, and they review who is eligible, where they are with their credits, where they need to be. And as long as you are mathematically eligible, and 95, 98% of our kids progress through, but if there is a student who's struggling, they calculate where they are with their credits. So if they need credit recovery in their sophomore and junior year, we don't want to be sitting there in January of your senior year saying you're mathematically not able to do it, whether it's because you didn't pass a class or maybe you didn't take the right sequence of courses. So those conversations take place, and they'll start with the freshmen as soon as we get back from winter break. But it's good for the board to see, Tim said it really well, there's fewer choices. We care about our 9th graders, but there's fewer choices for them. We need to get them on the right path. And then as you progress, you have more choices each year, especially if you take care of all your required credit.
Thank you very much.
Also, if you look through your folder, the high school was smart enough to include in here a draft of the course of studies, and that is all explained out there and how they come up with what they need to take. So,
And then Dr. Seeley will add that to board notes, but the handout as well has the grad requirements on our profile, FYI, for the board.
That's January, correct? When student selection, is that January? Okay. And these courses, if approved, would be part of that selection process?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
We would communicate with our staff and our chairs that they'll be included in the course catalog and receive a course description to communicate with our students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will introduce myself.
Is that my job or Rosemary's? I thought that was Rosemary's.
I feel like it was done
You
for
were
other
staring at
people,
it.
and
I was looking at
okay.
Rosemary.
Joe City introducing our new history course.
We are introducing a new history course. Good evening, everybody. I'm Joe Passetti. I'm pleased to announce this evening that we recently submitted an application to the College Board to get preliminary approval for a pilot phase 2 for AP African American Studies. This course currently runs in 60 high schools in the United States as an exploratory endeavor. Moving into next year, we are one of only a couple hundred high schools that have been selected for this pilot, which is very exciting for a couple of reasons, and we'll talk through each of those as we go through. So obviously, this is a new course that would be couched in our social studies department. Right now, under course description, and there are links in there that you'll be able to view, there's an at-a-glance and a pilot course overview. The College Board has been remarkably silent. They typically do this when they have new pilot phases of any course. They don't like to release too many materials because this is still very much in the research phase in terms of developing what that final exit exam might look like, as well as any core resources and ancillary resources for the actual units of study. But for right now, as you can see for the units at a glance, it follows very much a lot of the patterns that we have in our current elective course, which I'll talk about in just a moment. The origins of the African diaspora, freedom, enslavement, and resistance, the practice of freedom and movements and debates. So it takes a chronological approach to African American studies. At this time, the core skills that they are focusing on primarily, and a lot of AP courses do this type of work, applying disciplinary knowledge, written source analysis, data analysis, visual source analysis, and argumentation. So these are very much the cornerstones of an AP course. Again, culminating in the option, or not the option, the requirement of taking an exam for which they can receive college credit. Right now, the College Board's initial messaging has been that students would be able to receive in consultation with a number of universities. So they've not developed this course in isolation. They've talked with a number of universities and colleges across the country and have consulted with their ethnic studies departments to make sure that the course objectives and content are fully aligned with courses of study that they would have at their own institutions. So this would typically count, they're telling us, for a history credit and or an ethnic studies credit, depending on the university students are accepted to. But again, this is all very preliminary right now. Course prerequisites. This is directly from the program of studies from PWHS. So successful honors and or academic level students that meet those following criteria. Eligible prerequisites include, much like many of other AP courses, any honors or AP level social studies course in the sequence that we currently have. With the addition of this course, we'll be at 7 AP courses in our social studies department alone, which is outstanding in terms of the number of different pathways that students can select and the number of topics we have to offer them. Additionally, any academic level social studies course in the sequence and instructor/counselor recommendation for override, which is very typical of the course selection process that we currently have in place at PW. The expected impact for this, potential shifts in personnel needs based in enrollment. So one of the qualifying metrics that the College Board asked for in our initial application was, one, do we have a course that currently runs that is comparable, which we do, thanks to the hard work of our social studies department. And the second was, are we isolating or identifying folks who have an academic background in ethnic studies, African American studies, or related coursework that can teach this course moving into the future. APSI training, which is the Summer Institute training for AP teachers, will be on a rolling basis. So we were notified that because of the nature of this course and its pilot, the training opportunities will be on an ongoing basis with the College Board instead of just having a week during the summertime. Sequence will be potentially for 10th to 12th grade students. We talked about the prerequisites that are identical to the other AP courses. The curriculum change that we'll have to consider and have been talking about is alternating this course with the African American Studies elective course, because these are, very candidly, two very different levels of course, and we want to make sure that we're providing equitable opportunities for all of our learners to challenge themselves, as well as offer them options to explore content without that AP appellation tied to it. Course enrollment conversations with stakeholders to increase AP enrollment in the department, which will take place with teachers, as well as counselors and administration. And again, just as a note, this is the National Phase 2 pilot. So again, there's not a lot of information that has been released by College Board, and they've asked to not put a lot of things into the public just because it is very preliminary. And obviously, given the political climate in certain areas of the country, it is potentially an issue that they want to make sure that they're dealing with it in an appropriate way in terms of course content. There are no identified resources needed at this time, as the College Board has not announced any, and the anticipated enrollment for this pilot would be 10 to 20. Again, that's anticipated based on that pilot's need.
Don't the AP courses, to teach them, you have to take an AP training?
That's correct.
And do we have someone who's willing to do that?
We have department members that are willing to engage in that training, so we've identified folks, as well as keeping the option open of looking for folks who would be qualified to do that, so there may be personnel considerations moving into the future.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly.
Just two questions. One is is there international content as part of this course? Okay, so if that's it, because I thought last year we changed this course name to African American and Black Studies because everyone that's African American doesn't identify as African American. They may identify as Black if you're not from America. So just keeping that in mind for our international students who identify as Black.
Absolutely, Ms.
Course
Bland.
name change.
Absolutely, and that elective course, again, will alternate. So the AP College Board will make recommendations, and those are relatively stringent. I know that's part of the conversation, but again, they haven't released formally any of those resources and materials that may be reflected. Our current course does have them, so yes.
Thank you.
What's the process for the College Board, if this is phase 2, when potentially would it become a full-scale AP course?
Their intent is to develop the exam to be delivered at the end of the 23-24 school year. So there would be opportunities for our students at PW that would take it to take that exam at the end of the year.
Okay. And so then in 24-25, it would no longer be a pilot. It would be
Correct.
launched.
Yep. Full implementation.
I have one more question, might be for either Dr. Picani or you, Joe, in terms of the current African American and Black Studies class, feedback from students, and then enrollment this year as opposed to last year. Just trying to, we're introducing another class around the same topic area. What does the enrollment look like across the 2 years that we've had it? And then how are we attracting? I think this is a more general question. When we're adding these new classes, how are we continually attracting students to, especially the electives, to keep the momentum going? Because, right, we don't want it to just be 1 year. We want the classes to continue. So what does that process look like?
I'll defer to Dr. Bicani on the enrollment. They'll have more immediate access to that data.
Yeah, too, correct. We have to reflect upon the decrease for sure, and speak to the students. I think we've talked internally about it. As far as the assignment is concerned, too, because it's important to have the right teacher match up with the right particular course. So we have to take a look at that, not speaking in general, all of our courses, but in particular, this elective as well as the AP course moving forward. That's a discussion that we've had in terms of staffing, for sure.
There's 2 sections currently running, and that therein lies the rub, right? We have a deep and wide program of studies at the high school this will be the 28th AP if it runs, is that right? 28 APs, International Baccalaureate Career Program, a bevy of, the board and the administration before I ever arrived launched a ambitious EDI program. So you have a wide range of electives, and so there becomes only so much students can take. But we want to offer that. So what happens in March is that the high school team comes over and sits with Mrs. Grigaitis and myself, and we review what the subscription is in all of our courses. The goal is to run as many courses as we can. But sometimes we get into difficult numbers in some of the sections where, if we have a lot of freshmen and sophomores in one elective, but we don't have the staffing for it, we can say, well, that's going to be available to kids when they're juniors. So run as many classes as we can. Steve likes even numbers more than odd numbers, and he does a great job with the master schedule, and we have a lot of give and take going back and forth over that. But there's a practicality that the reality is we have to allocate our human resources as well as our material resources. So I see this course as a natural progression to what we initiated 2 years ago. And hopefully, we want to make sure, just like Maria in math and Kim in English, we want the students to see a pathway where they're going to take courses where they're enthused and they dig deeper into the content. And the ability to offer another AP course, particularly in African American Studies, to me is a great opportunity.
I also wanted to mention in our department meetings at the high school, the counselors were there. They do a tremendous job in talking to the students and encouraging them to take higher level courses, and we are going to be more deliberate with that, and we've already discussed that, and the counselors are way on board with that. So they do a great job with that. We're going to continue with that.
So with the, looking at the current African American and Black Studies class, has there been any conversation about potentially integrating it into existing social studies classes? Because it's elective, you get, 20, potentially 2 sections, so that's 40 students out of hundreds of students. So I know there is conversation publicly out there, integrated versus single. I think the AP class is great because there are other AP history classes, but I personally feel that the integration, trying it at least, would be useful and helpful to look at, not necessarily taking away the class and then running it integrated, because I think you want to kind of look at both and see the success, because I think all our students would benefit as opposed to just an elective set of students.
So one of the initiatives from PDE in revamping social studies standards, as well as the NCSS, which is the National Council for Social Studies, is to make sure that we take a more integrative approach to voices that have otherwise not been given due treatment in history courses, in particular U.S. history. So as we continue to move forward with curriculum revisions, that is one of our primary goals, is to ensure that we don't continue to fracture out pieces, but we're making it integrated into our core curriculum. Yep. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all very much for helping explain this. Any last questions for the high school?
I just want to thank Mrs. Grigaitis and Dr. Vicani and his team for, they presented this a couple weeks ago to me, and I really appreciate the effort that went into this. There were additional courses that, that were proffered by our high school faculty, and they're still in the offing for 24, 25. Hard to say that, 24, 25. And so they'll be here, but I think they did a very good job, our curriculum supervisors and our high school administration, working on this to expand our program of studies. For the board's edification, we're in a committee meeting, so there's no vote tonight. We're in that time period of the school year where we have a board meeting on Thursday, which would be very quick to suddenly approve a program of studies, especially since the whole board isn't here. So I believe we have 2 choices. We'll certainly put together a summary packet for the board members who are not here. If the board would like to vote for it after reorg, since we don't have any new board members coming on, we could vote on it in early December, which would certainly help the high school. If the board wants to wait till January and ask more questions, we can do that. if this was an election year where we had new board members coming on, I wouldn't even offer to vote on it for reorg, but I really think there's an opportunity there, and that can help us get the program of studies out there, and then we can immediately start recruiting and sharing it with students.
I think that if it's something you're planning to put in for second semester, then we need to vote on it in early December so that you can move forward.
Right, to present to students for the
Right.
beginning of fall.
Right, but if you're planning to put it in as a presentation for them picking their courses, then it needs to be approved.
I'll speak for the high school administration. They would prefer it's approved sooner than later.
Okay, so
Without a doubt, Mr. Price is already getting red right next to me.
yeah, let's put it on the
We'd love to, yeah, we would.
on the agenda for the
Thank you.
reorg,
Thank you.
the special meeting.
I want to go home and tell my ninth grader what he's taking pretty soon because he's going to love these. This is great. And I also just want to say I'm really happy about the music classes and that we are still, as a district, really committed to our music and arts. I think that's really, really important. And those two classes, especially the DigiBeats one, I mean, that just sounds phenomenal. Especially, like you said, for students that maybe don't focus on music quite as much. Yeah.
And I would just like to thank all of you in the high school. The fact that we never stay stagnant in what we have to offer our kids, and we keep adding things and keep tweaking things and changing things is really impressive. When I look at what's offered compared to what was offered, you know, when my kids were here, it's incredibly impressive, and thank you for all the hard work that goes into doing that. It would be easy to leave it alone, so thank you for not leaving it alone.
All right, the next agenda item that we are going to discuss this evening, again, was a request from the board to explain professional learning time to our community and to the board. If we are not familiar with it, you are aware that our students do get dismissed early, at least once a month, but we are going to further explain what actually happens on those days. We're going to start with a brief video to explain, and then we are welcoming Master Teacher Jordan Capel to further explain the professional learning time.
Throughout the While PLT days mean getting out of school early for Colonial School District students, it means Colonial's teachers head back to the classroom for professional learning time. These blocks of dedicated time during the year allow the teachers to collaborate, practice new skills, and create deeper learning opportunities for students.
The ideas that we have as individuals just continue to grow when you get to share that idea with somebody and they say, oh, what if you try it this way? And so by collaborating, we each take our strengths and make it work.
During PLT, teachers who teach the same grade or subject area have a chance to look at the curriculum or what the students learn, instruction or how the students learn, or assessments, which are test results and other ways to see how well students understand the material.
I learn a lot from PLT. I learn a lot of different teaching strategies and different ways to engage students and things like that.
I mean, they're just learning what we embed those skills as much as we can to go through that process.
PLT often overlaps the buildings, which makes it so teachers who teach the same concepts at different grade levels can look at the big picture, kindergarten through 12th grade. Teachers from different subject areas might work on interdisciplinary projects, and elementary specialists can touch base with their peers in other schools.
The PLTs allow me to get together with my other tech teachers in the district or the other librarians in the district and really talk about what the lessons are, how to move forward with lessons, struggles that we see the kids having within the different curriculums that we're teaching.
The primary goal of PLT is to put the needs of students first. By looking at students' performance on tests in the classroom and on state tests like the PSSA, written work, and other assignments, teachers can adjust their instruction to make sure it's effective and equitable for everyone.
Our overall goal is always with the kids in mind, and so any chance that we can look at their work that they're doing, we're celebrating where they've come from, and we're really kind of discussing, okay, well, where are some areas that we can work together to kind of strengthen as a team, and where are areas that we can kind of further develop for all of our students.
Through innovative district initiatives like Professional Learning Time, Colonial School District teachers can continue to create an effective and supportive environment for students to learn, grow, and serve in a school community that is welcoming for all.
And thank you very much to Kim Newell for putting that together for us. And at this time, again, Jordan Capel, who is a master teacher, currently working in White Marsh Elementary School. She's going to be able to give us some perspectives on PLT, as she has both been a specialist in our elementary building as well as a classroom teacher.
Good evening, everyone. And yes, I'm the instructional technology teacher, but I've also taught kindergarten, first, and second grade, so I have experiences in both types of PLTs. PLTs, or professional learning times, are more than a planning period. It's a time where teams can collaborate and work on different tasks that are aligned to our SIT and comprehensive plans. As mentioned in the video, PLT times are unique in the sense that it allows an entire team to meet. So since I'm a specialist, PLTs are really the only chance where I can meet with my colleagues in all 5 elementary schools. And then as far as a classroom teacher, as our buildings are growing, common prep times really aren't that common anymore. And so prep times the teachers have different specialist schedules, so PLTs allow all of the teachers to meet, whereas they might not be able to do that without a PLT. And at the start of the school year, each team receives a spreadsheet or a document with a recommended focus for each week that they're meeting. And I thought it would just be helpful to go through some of the common focuses and what teachers are doing with that focus. So we have a report card review, and at that time, teachers are reviewing their report cards as a collaborative team and making sure the descriptors are aligned with the current curriculum while suggesting possible changes and providing rationale. We also have ELA and math data analysis, which are based off of some benchmark tests like the Linkit assessment. And here the teachers focus on how their class did and look into different concepts and standards that they may need to provide and design additional instruction and support. These types of PLTs are really helpful for GAIN groupings and not just grouping students, but then creating lessons for GAIN based off of the data that they are analyzing as a team. Recently, the teams have had to develop student performance measures by looking at DIBELS and creating goals based off of student growth. We also have ELA and math progress monitoring, and here teachers look at data from our different formative assessment resources like Lexia and Dreambox, and after looking to see how the students are performing with those different resources, teachers can then use tools like Assign Focus and really craft the websites to meet the students' needs. So by looking at Dreambox, then teachers can work together to assign certain parts of the website. We also have time for teachers to develop learning intentions and success criteria. This focus comes from our district initiative based on the Clarity for Learning text. And here, when working on this focus, teachers are using the latest PDs to create learning intentions and success criteria for students, which is leading to student growth and creating learning intentions. While they're creating the learning intentions, teachers use PLT time to think of and prepare different scaffolds to make sure that all of their learners are able to meet the intended learning goals. Okay, so those are just some of the focuses. And then after the PLT happens, it's not that the teachers just leave the room. There's a complete process. So after the PLT, teachers complete a form that is submitted to their principals or curriculum supervisors. And the form has several parts, such as learning outcomes, and teachers select from differentiated instruction, formative assessment, integrated cultural responsiveness, and other topics. Teachers also mark the focus of the meeting, and the choices for that are student achievement, cultural responsiveness, instructional strategies, or other. They then have some space to record specific suggestions, specific successes and challenges that came up related to the focus of the meeting, and then they write down how they plan to apply this topic to instructional practice, and the goals for the next meeting. The PLTs are an essential practice for my colleagues and I to provide the best possible instruction for all of our learners, while also being cognizant of our initiatives, SIT, and comprehensive plans. And that's PLT.
Any questions around the board about our professional learning time?
So thank you for that. One question. Obviously, an implementation cycle of whatever we're learning in PLT occurs. So we fill out our reflection form, we fill out our next steps. What data, and this might be more of a question for you, what data or evidence do we have that administrators or curriculum specialists or whomever is taking what Sharon submitted as my action step, as my next step, and that it's actually happening? So, like, do we have concrete data? And we could say informals, walkthroughs, and all that fun stuff, but do we actually have anything that shows that what's happening in PLT is transferring to classroom for impact?
Again, so the process that Jordan explained, they have to fill out their form. It then goes to their building principals to verify, and the building principals are very involved in PLTs, and they attend them as well as the curriculum supervisors. It then comes up to the curriculum supervisors for their approval, and then we approve it, and it goes to the state level. That does not answer your question, but that explains the process. In order to determine if it is effective and working in our practices, we combine that with our professional development, and then the goal is increased student achievement, obviously, and growth overall. So do we have specific guidance as to whether it is just PLT? No, we do not have that. But again, it's all of our practices together that we assume are driving our instruction. As Jordan mentioned, it is also our school improvement planning goals and our future ready comprehensive planning goals. So we have an overarching goal that is embedded in everything we do, as well as our student support process that helps us with this. So just to pinpoint that it's PLT, we do not have that. Any other questions? Thank you very much, Ms. Capel. We appreciate it. Mrs. Paterno, that's the end of our presentations. I would also like to thank the high school again for a terrific presentation and for all your hard work for developing this over the past couple of weeks to share it with all of us. And Jordan, thank you.
Any board comment? No, but thank you all for coming. This was really helpful. It's always nice to see, faces from our elementary schools and our high school, and we like getting to hear from you guys directly. So thank you for taking the time and coming and presenting to us. Do we have any public comment? Okay, then.
I just want to add one thing in addition to helping explain PLT tonight. Jordan has done a wonderful job with our summer programming for the past couple summers, right? So she's been heavily invested, not just September through June, but year round. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we will adjourn this meeting and then like a 3-minute break, and we'll go into community relations. Great. Thank you.